believe in about money?
Oh, absolutely. So when you said the thing about, money doesn't grow on trees, I mean, how many times do we hear that growing up? And so, yes, my parents are very conservative. They come from the depression stage of the world. And so that was definitely very much of a mentality growing up that, they've had that scarcity of money. And so, my dad is self-made, he's very comfortable in his later part of life, but that has come from tremendous sacrifice and the money doesn't grow on trees and I can't afford it statement that we heard all growing up. So it was all about, stocking it away for a rainy day, and they're living an amazing retirement right now. But I don't know, it's kind of a tough mentality sometimes.
Yeah, you think about the stress that causes over your entire life. I run across, I work with clients that are millionaires that still are telling themselves the I'm broke story and I can't afford it. And it makes you wonder, causing all of that, even if you have plenty of money, it's all about the story and what you're choosing to tell yourself versus, the actual reality. And we can tell ourselves any story we want, even if we're still in the process of accumulating our wealth. We can tell ourselves, hey, isn't it great that I'm rich or I'm on my way, instead of, oh my gosh, I'm broke all the time.
Yeah. And then the other thing is we're also doing it to our children or grandchildren or relatives or whoever when we say, oh, no, it's too expensive. Or no, we can't afford to do that. Oh, no, that's, we can't go here because it's too expensive. Oh, no. Or I'll meet you at this store. They sell expensive things. And we're giving expensive this connotation that it doesn't deserve. And we're also doing a disservice to whoever's being the recipient of it, because I personally don't believe that we need to tell our children that things are too expensive. We might be able to say we can't do this right now, or we're going to be able to do that later on or whatever, but not everything has to have a label on it. It's just
right.
Yeah, or
I definitely felt like growing up that everything did have a label on it. I mean, it just was the times, and it was them coming from that generation. So yeah, trying not to instill that in my own kids who are grown up and making their own decisions anyway.
Right, but then they reach backwards and they remember some of the things and they go, oh, well, that's not going to change because somebody has to change the cycle. That's what it is. And so whether we do it or our children, somebody has to do it. Somebody has to do it. Not everything has to be a negative. And I'm not saying be Pollyanna either. And I do believe you have to work for things that, you're not entitled to everything, but you can still have a different view about things. That's just, I don't know. What do you guys think?
It's kind of the conversation that you choose to have. I think I work with a lot of parents who are trying to figure out, they grew up in a time or in a household where money was one of those taboo subjects that you didn't talk about at all. Don't even talk about it. Don't ask questions. Don't think about it. Nope. And so how do you transition from I never talked about it and it's uncomfortable and I feel like it's a bad thing to talk about to how do I have this conversation with my kids in a comfortable way? And I have 4 stepkids, and one of the things that my husband and I really work on is how do we talk to them about the value of money so that they never feel like they're limited, but at the same time they understand, hey, if you want to spend that money, sometimes you need to spend your own money. My daughter found something that she really wanted to buy at a store. And I said, I think you're going to feel even better about that purchase if you're the one that buys it. And so she was like, yeah, you know what? I do want to spend my own money on that. And it gave her a totally different perspective. She's 12 and she's already had a baking business and babysits. And so we've tried to instill this, I would say a healthy love of money and the things that it can afford you. And having a strong, decision-making ability around it, I think. Trevor, you have little kids. What are your plans?
Yeah.
Well, this is such an interesting conversation. When it comes to money, I used to catch myself all the time. I can't afford it. Money doesn't grow on trees. My dad's biggest one was that whenever he had money, it was gone and he just spent it. And I found myself falling down that same cycle of, okay, well, if I just have money, then I'm gonna spend it. And so I never had money in the bank. I never saved it. And recently I was doing some meditating and finding my core subconscious belief and going into the purpose of my life and my mission. And that's how we're here and helping to support the women's movement. And I realized that there was never enough money. And I didn't matter how much I worked, I was never going to be that level of where I was going to feel comfortable. And I don't know if women go through this as much as men, which is why I'm really excited about this conversation, is to open up this. But for men, your worth that you have in the bank reflects on your self-confidence, your self-value. If you even know what self-love is, then that as well, and just your overall psyche. So coming from very small of saying, hey, there's never enough. When you have it, it's gone. Well, that means your self-confidence. Once you have it, it's gone. This roller coaster of emotions, you just find money and your energy and your self-worth. It's really all tied together. And so now, and I learned this from Mara, actually, when we launched those Wine Women and Wealths down in Southern Utah, and I got to go to the launches and be the wine guy at the back. I learned that it's not that you can't afford it, or it's not that there's not enough. I'm choosing not to spend my money on this. And that's been a huge shift with my wife as well. We've had many conversations about, oh, we just can't afford it. Oh, it's so expensive. And Judy, right to that point, well, we don't go there because it's so expensive. Well, instead we're like, well, I look in the bank, the money's there, but it's that conversation, that decision of, well, do we really want to spend the money? Because it's either a hell yes or nah, I don't know. Really. But for where we are now, it's a, well, hell yeah, let's spend that money. And it's very empowering. It feels good. And there is always enough. And we always have enough money. We have more than enough money for the things that we need. And it was really that mindset that shifted everything. And until the mindset was there, the bank account did not reflect that whatsoever. So I'm really excited that we're having this conversation. This is where it started.
And the interesting thing is that a lot of times, you'll say, I have the money for this, but it's certainly not worth it. Like when I hear people spend thousands of dollars on a pair of shoes, I don't care how much money I have. I wouldn't spend it because I just don't think it's worth it. But that's my choice. I can't tell someone else to do that. But I was watching a special with Mark Cuban, and Mark Cuban is what, a gazillionaire? I think he's way beyond billionaire, whatever he is. And he lives here in Dallas, and he has a humongous house. But he said he has taught his children that they have to learn the value of money. He doesn't just buy things for them. And he says they know who their dad is. They know I'm, Mavericks. They know I'm Shark Tank. They know I make tons of money. And yet I don't give it to them. They have to earn it. And I think that's the better way to do it anyway. I mean, you do understand the value of money. But when somebody keeps saying to you, oh, you can't afford it. Oh, yeah, it's going to go right through your hands like it does mine. You remember that. And that's what I'm saying. I think we need to break the cycle and have different money mantras that we're teaching not only children, but teaching ourselves. Because somebody has to break that cycle. Because everybody that's the same age, in my age bracket, because I'm older than both of you, but in my age bracket, I can tell you that money was tight. It was tight. I mean, our parents came through the Depression, our grandparents came through the Depression. Some of our parents came through the Depression. And they say, we didn't have money to eat. Well, what does that mean? So when you come home at night, do you not have money for dinner? I mean, what does that mean? So you start to my mother used to say before that we had any company, she would always go, now remember FHB, that just meant family hold back. You don't eat until everybody else eats. And if there's leftover, then you eat. That's how we were brought up. And it wasn't like we didn't have any money. We did, but we were so structured because you didn't want to go through the Depression again. I mean, so that's what I'm saying. So we have somebody's got to break the cycle, really, honestly. And maybe it's what we're doing now that gives people some other ways of looking at things. Instead of saying, I'm going to try to earn enough money, I'm going to make money. I'm going to make the money, and here's how I'm going to do it, and here's what I'm going to buy with it, or whatever. You have to have a vision of what you're looking towards, but you also have to be a good steward of your money.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Go ahead, Trevor.
Oh, I was going to say, and I find this a lot when we're, oops.
Sorry, I just hit the wrong button. I was trying to spotlight you and I turned your video off. Oops. Sorry about that.
No, And I find this conversation a lot. So if the people on the call don't know, we have this solution called a $1 Million Baby Program. And it's, imagine a Gerber program that they have for kids in college education, except if the Rockefellers were to create this. And we call it the $1 Million Baby Program because we make children millionaires by the time that they are retirement age, and we can help pay for college and their first house or their first business. And it's amazing what $75, $100, $150 will do for kids because of the time value of money, which is one of the rules that and principles of money that we teach in our financial education classes. And then when I'm sitting down with parents, especially with young parents that have toddlers or newborns like myself, and they see what that money is going to do, there's this fear of, I'm creating a trust fund baby. I'm creating a child who is not going to understand the value of money. I'm going to create this kid who's going to want all and not know how to work for anything. And really, that all comes from the mindset of lack and disparity. And I grew up in the middle of nowhere, having nothing. I remember getting a job when I was 14, just so I could have the simplicities of life, and go out and we didn't have a lot of food when we were growing up. And I remember thinking, wow, I wish I had money just so I could buy additional food. And that was one of the things that I did. And my kids will never ever have to go through that. And in my mindset, when I tell people that, they're like, oh, you're creating kids that are just going to going to be gluttons of life and take advantage of everything. It's like, well, that's not true. And the goal is to teach them financial education, to teach them those values, so generation after generation appreciates and enables and utilizes that wealth. But I know so many millionaires these days. I just run into them now, and they are the nicest, most selfless, most genuine, most generous people, and you would not even know that they were wealthy. And I think that is a huge misconception about what money is and what money does. It has the potential of not changing you. It just has a potential of expressing the internal emotions of how you feel about life and lack, and the holes that you have in your emotions and psyche, and it expresses those very well. So if you have a child who is complete and they're comfortable with themselves and with their family and with their surroundings, money is just going to be a tool to enable them to have a better life, to help more people, to do more cooler things that we're all trying to do, which is save the world. So I don't think that we're giving children like this opportunities is bad, but giving free reign. I mean, Mark Cuban would never just hand over his trillions of dollars and say, good luck.
No.
You've got to teach the kids mindset. That's the biggest thing. The biggest gift I think we can give our children and really the next generation. There's a whole conversation right now that's starting to really develop about how we create our reality and the stories that we tell ourselves in all different aspects. What's cool about money is it's the most tangible experience, or one of the most tangible experiences we have. So we have our stories, which directly relate to the financial results that we have in our life. So if we can begin to understand, hey, what are all of the stories that I'm telling myself? I listen to my kids come home from school and tell themselves a story, and I say, is that really the story you want to tell yourself? And they're like, Mara, but then they have to think about it. And that, I feel like, is one of the coolest gifts we can give our kids, is as we become more aware of the stuff that we're telling ourselves about everything in our life, about our body image, about our time, about our money, about our financial situation, about our future, about our jobs, whatever. As we become more aware and we figure out the tools that we're able to use to bring that awareness, how do we teach that to that next generation, so that as we do set up $1 million baby plan for our kids and grandkids, by the time they get to their 50s or 60s, they're already confident about money. They're not telling themselves the same garbage stories we've been telling ourselves for 20, 30, 40, 60, 80 years. And that, I think, is the biggest gift that we can give to the next generation, is helping to develop that awareness, that mindfulness of knowing what we're telling ourselves.
Well, I think one of the big things that we're missing in this whole thing is that when there are kids going from high school to college, they have no idea about money. They don't have any idea. They really don't. But when they're going from college to their first job, the universities believe that the employers are going to teach them about life. The employers believe the universities should have taught them about life, and yet nobody's teaching them. So, no, okay, so maybe we don't have checking accounts, but I mean, I still have a checking account, but maybe people don't have the same way. But how do you balance a checkbook? I mean, people don't know how to do that. Or how do you have a budget? And why does a budget have to be something that's negative? You know, I mean, the truth of the matter is there's a lot of people that have a lot of money. And the definition of wealth is very different. Some people assume it's just about money. Some people think it's about having the opportunity to help other people. And so you have to have that definition, you know, intact as well. What does it mean to be wealthy? And so who's teaching them the lessons that they need to know so that they're prepared for life? You know, they're not going to run into a Mara all the time who's going to do the money. They're not going to see Andre who's going to do money 101. You know, you just don't run into that all the time. And as adults, if we have options to do that, that's amazing. But what are we doing? Like, why are we not going into the schools, and why are we not having a class and teaching people like life? Because a lot of this is about life. Mindset is life. You know, I mean, I can tell you story after story after story about things that had been said to me growing up, and to this day I still have to rewind the tapes in my head because I still remember them at the most inopportune times, and then I have to go, okay, that's not really how it is. That's not really who I am. And you know, so does everybody have that ability to do that? Some do, some don't. So how do you do it? And that's what I mean. I think that that's one of the things that we have to teach our children. And even when they're little, you know, Deanna has a cute little baby coming, but she also has how old is he now, Deanna? 2?
2, yeah.
Okay.
2.
So if you give him money to go into a store, you know, like he should know that, he shouldn't know what the value of that is, but he should know that this is something very special, that he gets to buy something that he chooses because of we worked for it or whatever, but not the negative part of every single thing. You know,
right.
You know, and so that's what I'm saying. So I think that part of this conversation is yes for us, but I think part of it has to go one step further, and we have to bring it to the ones who are still forming their ideas about what life is.
Yeah, we do this a lot with. So I've got almost a 3-year-old and a 5-month-old, and we do it with the toys that Levi has. He's got these Thomas train engine trains, and there's a lot of them are wooden that you push back and forth, but there's a few of them that you push a button, it has a battery and it goes. And he's broken a few of them because he's tried to push. It's like, well, and this is the lesson of the value that it has. Because kid, what is $1? What is $10? What is? I mean, he's got this little bank. We got this on a cash register and all this food and this kitchenette for Christmas because he loves cooking, and basically he's going to be our next entrepreneur in the family. But he has these little dollar bills. He doesn't understand those, but what he does understand is the train worked, now the train doesn't, and allowing him to go, oh, how am I going to replace that, or how am I going to fix it? Because he'll get out his little tools and try to fix it. It doesn't work, and it's the utilization of different words of yes and no and but these little transition words of, well, yes, we can get that, but we can't get it for a really long time. He understands that, wow, it's going to be broken for a really long time, and he better not do that. And we'll, you know, utilize different words. And Sam Horn, she's got this really good book called Tung Fu, or Got Your Attention. They're these books about sales and the words that you utilize, but they're also really good for kids about mindset. And I think this is really in line with that communication about teaching value, because for him, he doesn't understand. I mean, he doesn't know where his food comes from. He helps and gets in there in the kitchen and cuts stuff, and it's really fun. But what he understands is Thomas the train engine does not work anymore.
And for 5 more sleeps, it won't.
well, it's still there. The broken toy is still there. It's been there for 6 months, and he sees that, and he goes, "Oh, it's broken." And we go, yes, it is broken. And he'll say, so I don't push on it, right? No, you don't push it. Okay, I won't push on it. I don't want to break it. I want to keep it going. And he'll say things like this. And it's this small transition of allowing him to understand and experience the, oops, you broke your toy, versus, let me tell you what happens when you break your toy, Levi. It's going to do this. It's going to do this. And that's just instilling, oh, well, let me tell you about money. There's never enough. It doesn't grow on trees. And for him to experience this, and something so small in my world, it's phenomenal. It's huge.
Yeah. He'll remember that. He'll remember that.
He'll remember that. Exactly.
Yeah. Well, I also think it's difficult these days to teach kids the value of money, because we don't deal with cash very much anymore. And so it's all about the cards. I remember Troy is 26. I remember when he was 15, we were talking about something, and I said something like, well, I don't have any cash with me. And he's like, well, you have a card in your wallet. Can we just go, teaching him that there has to be money in that, bank account in order for me to get money out of there. So I think it is a whole different deal. I mean, my dad still deals in cash. And I don't think even he had a credit card till about 10 years ago, believe it or not, because he had to have one to book travel and things like that. Mm-hmm. But, it was all about the cash. And I remember all the little envelopes that he would have. And that's kind of how he taught us to do the same thing. We had an envelope where we put cash for clothes we wanted, or for toys we wanted, or whatever. But, in this day and age, and I'm feeling very old when I say it like that, we don't deal with cash that much. It's all about the cards and swiping and chipping. Yep. And so it's a whole different deal.
And it's funny that you say that, because I remember that my father wanted to buy a car, and since he did everything in cash and he had the envelopes and everything, he couldn't get a car.
Exactly. My dad has had that. My dad's always paid cash for cars. Always.
And you have no credit.
Run around. Yeah.
That's right. You don't have any credit. So then now it's like backwards. Okay, so I pay for everything. I don't buy more than I can afford, and yet I can't get this because I have no credit.
Exactly.
It's like bizarre. Yeah. It is. It's bizarre. But
very backwards.
So we just went to the Museum in San Antonio, and it's a museum where you hear things, you see things, you do things, and it's all about kids. It was amazing. But they had a little area, and it was only for kids that were less than 5. And there was a store, and there was a bakery and whatever, and you had to pay for things, with their money. It was play money. But when you went up to the cash register, if you didn't have enough money, you had to put something back. And so the kids started to say, okay, so this is 4 quarters. You can buy this for 4 quarters, or you could do this. And it was interesting. And I wasn't sure if it was the best way or not, but it was definitely teaching kids. I mean, I didn't see anybody cry because they couldn't afford anything, but they understood that they could buy 2 of these for 4 quarters, but they couldn't buy 3. And so you had to decide what you would do. But then they have this, there's a movie out there, and it's all about food, but there was a little girl, it was a family of 4, they had $5 for dinner, and she wanted to have pears. So they went into like a Whole Foods kind of store, and the pears were 4 for $3. And so that means she only had $2 left over. So what are you going to do with the other $2? So her mom said, well, we have to spend money for the whole family, so let's go to Burger King where we can buy dinner. And so she saw that she couldn't buy the good food that she wanted, but she could buy this food and feed the whole family. So it's kind of like, like there's all these mixed messages out there. So, it's like take it in a sand sifter, and what do you keep and what do you not keep,
I think part of it is
y'all, I got to jump off on this. Sorry, I got to jump off on this.
Okay.
I have to go to a luncheon all about legacy gifts. So I'm going to talk about money all through lunch.
There you go.
Great to see you, Judy, friend, and thanks so much for this. Looking forward to other ones.
All right, and I will talk to you soon.
Okay, take care.
Bye, sweetie girl.
Bye.
Awesome. Well, what I was going to say is I think part of that is starting the conversation about budgeting from a young age, and we've already mentioned this today, but making budgeting something that's not a bad thing, regardless of whether it's shopping with plastic or shopping with dollar bills, becoming very clear about what do you have and where do you want every single one of those dollars to go, and having a zero net budget where every single dollar is being told where to go, even and it should be part of it going into savings. We work a lot with couples, and when I sit down with them, I want to know about their goals and dreams. Are you guys traveling as much as you want to travel? Are you saving for a house? What's your plan for kids? All of those different pieces. And if travel is something that's important to them, then hey, if we have an extra $1,000 in the budget, let's put $300 a month aside, and you've got a really great vacation once a year. and beginning to put those different pieces in so people don't feel like, oh, I can't afford the stuff that I want. It's all about prioritizing and creating that conversation where it doesn't feel negative. It feels good to know, hey, at the end of this year, we can go, we'll have $3,600 to go somewhere.
Well, they used to do, the savings banks used to do a Christmas club. And I don't know if they still do it, but every week you would go to the bank and you'd put $5 in. And at the end of the year, right before Christmas, they would hand you a check. And it was the coolest thing because you knew like another week right after Christmas, you get to put another $5 in and start all over again. And I think we're missing some of the fun parts about, how to save money and what are you saving for? And, everybody would always say, well, they're going to spend their, their goodies on, they're going to buy something special for themselves because they save their money every week. And sometimes you didn't buy anything, and so it just rolled over and you did it again. But I think that we're missing some of that fun stuff, and maybe that's what it is. Even as adults, like if you said to, I know there's plenty of women, you tell me, well, you need to put yourself on a budget and see where you're spending money, and they're like, oh my God, that's horrible, I can't do that.
Budget, diet, budget.
Right, that's what it is. So you have to try to figure out like what you do. Sarah's on a phone, and you're not muted, Sarah. You have anything to share with us?
Hi, everybody.
Hello.
I am just listening and absorbing it, but yes, I have a lot of, I would say, a lot of what's been talked about, and trying to shift that from I can't afford it to I'm not going to buy that right now, or really just being able to budget and follow it. I really empathize with what Trevor was saying as far as just saving is not something that is a muscle for me that has been developed, and really saying, okay, well, that's the balance of my bank account. That's the amount that I have. And this has just been a lifelong pattern, and part of, being in Five Rings, and I'm new to it, is really about turning that prosperity consciousness around and really developing my own sense of worth, not related to money also at the same time. If that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
Beautiful. Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head, Sarah, not having your worth come from your bank account. And I got to tell you, the second that you find that and it hits you, it'll hit you, not just like, oh, there it is, but it'll punch you. Someday you'll just wake up and you're like, I am not the sum total of my bank account. And forget that. I don't care what's in there. Inside me, I'm full, and I am enough, and I am good, and I am growing, and I am awesome. And it's really that sum total of the people you surround yourself, the things you listen to, AKA what you shut off your TV, you shut off your radio, you shut off those naysayers, you shut off the negativity in the world, and you choose your updates. Do you want to update yourself with negative 2.0, or do you want to update yourself with positivity and self-worth and self-love? And you'll find yourself creating this, and this is back to what Mara was saying about budgeting. Budgeting savings is very important, because if you don't budget everywhere that you're going to spend, the universe cannot have vacuums. It just doesn't do vacuums. And if you've got $300 floating out there, just like you've got this where was I going to tie that back to? Anyway, so $300 just floating out there and it's not spent, it's going to find its way to be spent on somewhere else. And so with that, with your emotions, if you have this emptiness or this void, you're going to seek to fill that. And generally where people go is they go for food, they go for drugs, they go for spending, they go for some sort of habit that is potentially, and more often than not good for them. However, if you filled that, if you filled yourself with good stuff, with good thoughts, with good emotions, and you're good, money will go, oh, you mean I can grow and I don't have to fill you anymore? I can grow and that your bank account will just start to grow, because as your self-value goes up, your net worth and your bank account will also fill. If your self-value goes down, your bank account will also follow you. And so by allowing yourself to be limitless, well, my limitless is my potential is limitless. I feel emotionally full. I'm growing bigger and better every day. I am enough. I'm exactly where I want to be. And in every day, in every way, I'm getting better and better. That's my mantra. You'll just see that the universe will start throwing money and throwing opportunities in your direction, because it finally has an opportunity to give you what you've been wanting without you putting all that negative energy towards it. Because really, we're our own blockers of our own self-wealth. It's because we feel negative about our bank account, that it's like if we treated somebody, if we treated our money, or if we treated our best friend like we treated our money, our best friend would not stick around for very long. Our best friend would be beat up. It would be in the corner. It would be shamed. It would be shunned. That's not a very good friendship. But if you're good, then what's going to happen is you're not just going to have one friend. You're going to have a lot of friends. It's like that cool person in school, right? They're good no matter what happens. They're good. And just friends just keep coming to them. It's the same thing about money. So I'm really proud of you, Sarah, for working on yourself more than you do on your bank account, because your bank account will reflect that very soon. Just keep working on yourself. Trust me, it works.
Yep. It's almost like when people define themselves by the title that they have, and then when they don't have that title anymore, they feel like they have no self-worth. It's a title. It's a bank account. It has nothing to do with you. That's not who you are. And so we have to again, with the tapes, we have to rewind it and say, I am enough. I am this, or whatever. I talk about being, whole. I'm healthy. I'm abundantly wealthy. And it doesn't mean that, I'm saying that I'm going to have what Mark Cuban has. I'm not sure that I even want what he has. But the point of the matter is that I'm saving space for it. I'm opening a space up. And that's what you have to do is, you have to decide that you are worth whatever it is that you're looking towards. You have to identify that, and you have to be pretty, specific about what it is that you want, and open it up. Because when you open it up, when you put it out there, the universe is going to provide, but you have to open it up. And by the way, when that opportunity is in front of you, you actually have to be able to receive. And that's the other hard part, especially for women. We like to give, but then when somebody offers to give to you, you're like, oh, I don't know how to receive that. When somebody says to you, oh, I love your dress, and you go, oh, this whole thing, it's $10, I bought it at Marshall's, blah, blah, blah. Instead of just saying, thank you. I always tell people, say thank you and then zipit.com. You don't want anything else to come after that. Just say thank you, because you don't have to explain anything. And that's what I'm saying. When we forget about who we are, because we have these great core values and we don't know how to show people. It's all about how you show up. And so I always tell people, just listen, thank people, and be open for opportunities, because they don't always come gift wrapped. You have to open yourself up for it.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're awesome, Sarah.
I needed this today.
Well, you've got it. You have it. And that's the whole thing. You have, again, you're here for a reason, and maybe you just needed to hear one thing that the three of us are talking about, but you're here for a reason. And that's the truth of the matter. No matter what is available. Like when I speak and somebody says to me, oh, aren't you upset that there's not, 5,000 people here, there's only 50? I'm like, no, because the people that are supposed to hear the message are the ones that show up. So you showed up for a reason. And maybe it's one thing that somebody said, or one way to change what you're thinking about. And all of a sudden, things are going to happen. And that's what it is.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think that's the whole thing is with business or whatever it is that you're doing, raising kids, it's that you consistently put in good, solid actions to improve. Mm-hmm. It's just like farmers, when they're planting seeds and they look behind them and there's birds getting their seeds, they don't get mad. They don't turn around and chase birds and get frustrated. What they do is they just keep planting seeds, and because they'll look back 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, 6 months, and they'll have crops more so than they would if they would have stopped to chase the birds. And within money, your self-worth, your relationships, growing in a new position, whatever it might be, get more focused on the actions and how you feel about what it is that you're doing. And no, just like savings. And I think that's the big thing about savings is that people, there's no hope for the future. They don't think it's going to amount to anything. And everybody's kind of in this immediate, instantaneous gratification. And I think that comes a lot from media and marketing and advertising, which is why, I mean, I shut off my TV years ago. I watch Netflix, but it's because things I want to watch and I don't have to watch commercials. And by focusing on things that I want to, I love savings because I get to know, all right, I'm going to save this money and then we're going to get to do this. And instead of focusing on, oh, I've got to save $400 a month, it's, yes, honey, in like 6 months, we're going to be here and it's going to be awesome. And we're going to be doing these cool things. And I'm tied to the outcome. I'm like really excited about the outcome, about how I feel. And these day-to-day actions of savings, because maybe it's a nickel a day. Wow, that's not a lot. Though it's the habit of saving that creates wealth. And you'll find games of, well, I've only been able to save a nickel. And then that day that you're able to put a quarter in, best day ever. Well, to Mark Cuban, what's a quarter? What's $100 bill? What's $10,000? It's nothing to him. And so that's the point is being focused on what you can do. Because if you can walk, if you can crawl, if you can sing, if you can save, whatever you can do, just do that and appreciate it. Because what you appreciate appreciates. And if you're appreciating how much your bank account sucks, then your bank account is going to continue to go that way. Or if you look at yourself and you look at how much you weigh, or how fat you are, or how ugly you are, or how your makeup of this, of the light, or the shoes, that stuff will just continue. Though there is so many silver linings of beauty and glory and majesty in our lives, and so many opportunities for wealth and abundance, that just that small one shift of focus, it can, just like that, you can be wealthy. Just like that, you can be wealthy.
Mara, what do you got?
I'm just sitting here absorbing all of it. I love this. I keep coming back to it, but it's all about the place where we choose to spend our time and what we choose to focus on, and the story about all of those different pieces. When I was a kid, speaking of building the savings muscle, my dad, I was really lucky to have a dad that talked to me about money, and he'd get out his paper ledger. He had this ledger book that was just rows and rows and rows, and he had all the savings goals. He was saving for a new surfboard. He was saving for a trip to Hawaii. He was saving for a new car. He was saving for this. He was saving for that. And every month, let's say it was $2,500 went into savings, and then he'd write the amounts that he was saving for each item in all of those columns. And then he'd do a subtotal, and then he'd have a goal number. And we knew, hey, if we stay on track, in a whole year, we get to go to Hawaii. Well, that was awesome because we'd never been to Hawaii. And I think that really did set a strong foundation for me from a savings perspective about being excited. So I'm always coming back to, how can we take these things and really bring it to that next generation, women and the amazing men that support them, that kind of have that similar mindset, have the ability to make generational change. All of us are still carrying the garbage from our grandparents or great-grandparents or parents who went through the Depression. How are we going to move past that? We've got to change the conversation on a big, big level, because that conversation about the Depression and living in lack and not having enough, all of that lasted, 100 years? But that's not the reality anymore. Sure, we're probably going to have some ups and downs, but what do we want that new reality to look like? And how are we going to hold ourselves responsible to show up for that next generation and help them completely change that conversation? So it's not something that there's a lack, there's a responsibility. You've got to get out there and learn the skills, but it's all possible. And becoming more and more aware of what story we're telling ourselves, how we're showing up, is going to allow us to do that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Totally agree.
Well, it's 10:45. Do we want to wrap or take questions, or what are we thinking, y'alls?
I would say let's take some questions, and I would say tell everybody about the strategy.
Yeah. Cool. Well, we did have a bunch of questions that came up, but I want to focus on the individuals that we have here first. Shadaya, do you have any questions or any feedback or anything you want to focus on? Shadaya.
Yep, there he is. Hello.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, sorry. I have it on driving mode because I'm at work right now and I didn't want all of the background noise and distraction. But I don't have any questions, but I'm with the other gals. I'm sitting and absorbing. I am in the process of changing my money mindset, and I'm already seeing amazing things. And just really, I giggled, Trevor, when you said that, it's like diet and budget and budget and diet. And it's hard to I think the more knowledge that you have, the easier it is to change your perception. And so that's why I'm here today. And I was on the one the other night too. And you guys, I just applaud all three of you for doing this for the women to, so that we can rise up and create equality and whatnot. So that's pretty much all I've got for today. Thank you again. The only question I have is, Mara, you had said something the other night about and I've been meaning to reach out to you about this, but you gave one of your mantras about how money flows freely to you and it provides for your family and your goals, and then the abundance flows back out. I was wondering if that would be something that...
You just got muted.
There we go.
Sorry, my audio, my audio cut out. If you would be willing to share that with, I don't know if anyone else would be interested, but at least just with me, because I am working on like super simple mantras. But that one like really struck a chord with me, and I was like, oh my gosh, that I would love to incorporate that. So I don't know if you could just share that again, but
I happen to have it printed on a cute little card that I can give to you the next time I see you.
I would love that.
And then you'll have it written down. Yeah, it was one of those things that it resonated for a lot of people. So I finally got tired of handwriting it and had it printed on a little round card people can carry around. So yes, I would love to share it, but I'll read it right now since you brought it up. When I first started writing my money mantra, I needed to replace the belief that I had to work really, really hard and almost burn myself out and be exhausted as a young 20-something, just like my dad, who worked 80 hours a week. So my first one was money flows freely to me and through me. And that was an accident. It totally worked. All of the money left. But I thought, oh, you know what? This really works. I just need to get more specific. So here's how I became more specific. It's money flows freely, easily, and effortlessly to me. And with it, I honor myself, my family, my business, my community, and my causes. And the surplus flows out and blesses the world. Although it's a little bit longer, it covers all of those bases of the different places that I wanted to see that prosperity. And it's definitely been an absolute reality. So I would be more than happy to share that with you and anybody else that's interested.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Of course. Oh, look, Levi showed up. Hey. All right, well, let's wrap up. I know we've heard a little bit from Sarah and a little bit from Shadaya. One of the things we want to offer is a strategy session with one of us. We've got a little questionnaire to help us be able to identify who would be best to spend 30 minutes with you and kind of help you dial in on something that you want to focus on. So I'm going to put that in the chat right now. It'll also come out in an email after we're done with this session, and that way you can kind of follow up and let us know how we can support you. Each one of us has awesome different expertise, and our goal is to pair you with somebody that'll help you deal with that one piece that's most important for moving on to the next step. Anything you want to add to that, Judy?
Nope, I'm excited that everybody is ready to change their mindset, because that truly is not just about money, but that's true in almost everything. If you change your mindset, your life will change. I promise you that. And when you stop putting in some of those little words like the but instead of the and or anything like that, your life will change, because you're putting out good energy, and people are going to be attracted to you. And when people are attracted to you, opportunities show up. When opportunities show up, there's also revenue. When revenue shows up, there's more opportunity. So it's kind of like, a cycle. So very excited that Sarah and Shadiah and Deanna are ready to change some of their money mantras. And I thought this was awesome.
Cool. Let's unmute you, Trevor. Oh, hang on. There you go. Oh.
Beautiful. Well, actually, one of my Levi's, one of his favorite toys is the calculator. So I think that's one of the ways that I'm teaching my son about money and numbers.
Awesome.
The calculator keypad.
Well, thank you for joining us today, Levi. We're very excited for you to wrap up the webinar with us. And thanks, everybody. We'll let you know on the next date we're going to be doing this, and we'll be sending out an email shortly with some social media blurbs, if you wouldn't mind passing this along to the people that you know that would benefit from this conversation. We'll be doing it again very shortly. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Have a good morning.